Hi and welcome to E-ZTutoring. Today we are going to cover how to solve quadratic systems using substitution. So there are two methods to solve these. They are substitution and elimination. We will be going over substitution today. So really all you want to do is you want to solve for one of the variables. We know that an equation with two unknown variables cannot be solved. So in one of these equations, you want to get either y equals something or x equals something. Solve for one of them. Take that value that you get and plug it into the other x in the other equation. And then that's going to make this equation solvable. So now the question is, do we solve for x here or do we solve for x here? And you can solve for x or y, it doesn't matter, you can choose any one you want. Now if we solve for x here, we have x squared, so this is going to end up giving us x equals the square root of something, and then we plug that in here. We don't want to deal with square roots, it's just going to make life harder than it is, so we want to solve for x here. So all we do is we subtract the 2 on the other side and we get x equals y minus 2. And now, since we know that x is equal to y minus 2, we know that this x is also equal to y minus 2, which means that we can plug in y minus 2 in for this x. So we get y minus 2 squared, y minus 2 squared, plus y squared equals 36. So we just went ahead and we substituted in for the value of x, and we ended up getting this equation, which now has only one unknown variable, which means we can solve it. Now, we could have solved for y and plugged in for y. We could have even solved for x or y here and plugged in here. It would have gotten more complicated, but whichever way you did it, you would have gotten the same answer. You had about 4 ways of doing it differently. All of them would have gotten you the same answer. So now all we need to do is just work out this equation. So I'm going to skip the basic algebra of foiling and adding like terms. That's going to give us, let's see, 2y squared. And then we have minus 4y plus 4 equals 36. And now we just want to solve this like a regular equation. Now, obviously this is a quadratic, right? Y squared, y constant. So whenever it's like that, you always want to set it equal to 0. So we should subtract 36 from both sides. And now we get 2y squared minus 4y. And then 4 minus 36 is negative 32. And now when you're solving quadratic, you usually don't want a number in front of your y squared. And in this case, we have a 2. You usually want it to be a 1. So we can actually go ahead and divide by 2 everywhere. We can divide by 2 here, and we can divide 0 by 2, and it will still remain 0. So we get y squared minus 2y minus 16 equals 0. So now what we want to do is we want to factor this, because now this is a simple quadratic with a leading coefficient of 1. So this is very easy to factor now. We just need two numbers that multiply to negative 16 and add to negative 2. So we think about what multiplies into negative 16. We have 16 and 1. There's no way you can combine those to get negative 2. We have 8 and 2. Can't combine those to get negative 2. And then last but not least, we have 4 and 4, which is not going to work either. So it is actually not going to work to factor, so instead we will need to use the quadratic formula. You need to use that every time it doesn't work to factor. So we will have y equals negative b. b is negative 2. So negative negative 2 is positive 2. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4, because negative 2 squared is 4, minus 4ac. So we have 4 minus 4ac. 4 times 1 is 4, times negative 16 is negative 64. So this will be 4 minus negative 64. So 4 plus 64, square root, all over 2a, and a is 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. So now you can split this up. Well, actually, before we split it up, we can probably simplify this square root. And we just have to think, what goes into 68? What perfect square goes into 68? So we will probably have 4 go in there. That would be the highest one. So we'll have 2 plus or minus 2 square root 17 over 2. I won't go over how I got this. If you'd like to know how to simplify square roots, be sure to watch my video on that. So anyways, this will now split up into 2 different fractions, 2 over 2, which is 1, plus or minus 2 square root 17 over 2, which is just square root 17. So these are our 2 values for y. So now that we found our 2 values for y, you want to find your corresponding values for x. How do we find that? You simply take your y value and you plug it in where you've solved for x. So over here we solved for x and got x equals, so that is a very good place to plug in our y value. X equals y minus 2. Here's y. Minus 2. And now keep in mind that our y value was plus or minus, which means we have 2 y values. So we have to use 1 y value using plus and 1 y value using minus. And after you do that, we will have these 2 corresponding values for x. Now, these x values, they don't go with both y values. This x value goes with this y value, and this x value goes with this y value. So that is very important not to combine them. Well, anyways, everyone, that is how you solve a quadratic system using substitution. Hope this made sense. If you guys ever want ACT or SAT help, be sure to visit www.E-ZTutoring.com. Thank you guys and have a good day.